And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, episode 74 of the podcast. I am your host, Vito Jerome Chirco, alongside my sidekick, my partner in crime, that is, the Doc, from Doc and Jock, John Macaroon. John, how's it going?
Very good, Vito. Good to check in with you. Love this time of year. Love that we get a chance to talk baseball, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's on your mind regarding the Detroit Tigers, news and notes in Major League Baseball. But to start off, I guess I heard they signed another minor leaguer third baseman. Anything about it? I don't know who it is. I just saw it on the Free Press, Your Fine newspaper.
Well, honestly, a lot of minor league deals. And the thing is, I think he's trying to build up the minor league system as much as possible with veteran players that are insurance policies for guys getting hurt or guys getting traded. Now, they've signed Omar Infante and Brendan Ryan, who's a middle infielder and a third base guy, can play third base a little bit, very good with the glove, can't hit. Infante's very light hitting at this point too, but they're insurance policies for the trades of Iglesias or Ian Kinsler. And Kinsler still might get dealt. And we've talked about that topic ad nauseum on Tigers Talk, but about the possibility of him being dealt. And it looks like if the Dodgers don't get Brian Dozier from another AL Central team in the Minnesota Twins, a guy that hit 40-plus bombs in 2016, that is Brian Dozier. If they don't get him, they're going to turn their attention once again to Ian Kinsler, more than ever, Doc.
So who was the signing third baseman, minor leaguer? What was the exact name? Was it today? The signing was on Tuesday.
Well, I was looking into Brendan Ryan, so I'm not even sure of the guy's name. It's nobody, I'll say this much, nobody relevant to worry about.
Yeah, understood. You know, Vito, Alex Avila's gone around and he's trying to, kind of cushion his comments from the offseason, saying that, hey, there was no mandate to sell off. It's just one of those things where it's going to be a long-term process. It's not one of those situations where I think that, I want to kind of ease the nerves of the fans. We're going with the team that we think is best. And I understand all that, but when you look at it, I guess the onus is, and the realistic approach, the realist way of looking at it is, basically they're going to go with the same team in 2017 that they had in 2016. And many people are nervous, and they're trying to figure out, can we invest in the Tigers? Are we able to kind of, get our hopes up that this team could do something different? And right now, I think a lot of fans, and I'll get your sense of it, I think a lot of fans are kind of really thinking that this team is going to struggle, and maybe their hope, and they've kind of jumped way off the bandwagon, really thinking that, the era's over, and it's just kind of, waiting it out until they can overhaul the talent.
It is maybe that, where they're trying to overhaul the roster, and the window of opportunity to win might be over. Alex Avila might be realizing that, even though now he's saying, as you said, to start off your conversation there, you said that, he's backing off of the mandate piece, which was the topic brought up heavily about him having a mandate from ownership to move on from major league roster players. These guys that are vets, maybe even aging vets that are expensive, because he's looking. Supposedly, at the beginning of the offseason, the Tigers were looking as a ball club to get younger and to get cheaper. And now they're signing these minor leaguers that have been major leaguers, these guys to minor league deals, such as Brendan Ryan, such as Omar Infante. Also because of the fact that Dixon Machado, by the way, guys, is out of minor league options. Meaning if he doesn't make the 25-man roster out of spring training, he would be exposed to waivers. Meaning anybody could claim him off of waivers. So that's a big-time liability that you have to factor in, and that's why they've picked up these veteran options of late. Just in case he doesn't make the major league roster out of spring training and then gets picked up by somebody through waivers, well, then you have Brendan Ryan to be your backup, or Omar Infante to be your backup. And these guys, in the past at least, have been reliable backups and utility guys. Now, can they play as much as they have in the past? No. Neither guy really can contribute that much to a major league club at this point in their respective careers. And we saw Infante, his production tail off mightily with the Royals, and him get just cut because the Royals didn't need him anymore. He wasn't doing anything for the Royals to keep him on their major league roster. And then Brendan Ryan, for how many years now straight, he's been a non-factor offensively. And really his MO as a whole throughout his major league career has been that his offense has been light. It's always been a liability, and has caused him to be a liability at the plate. So the Tigers, we don't want to totally make these fans despondent, right? And make them, want to jump off a cliff about the Tigers right now. But the way they're headed is that they're looking to be a 79 to 85 win team. So that toils around with that isn't going to be much more than a team that is a mediocre middle of the AL Central ball club. And it's sad for a lot of fans who have to come to accept that now, such as you and I, Doc, but that's the writing on the wall, what we see right now for the Tigers' outlook in 2017, big time.
So is it unrealistic for fans to kind of put in their hopes? I did a recording with Jason, and he said that if you look at it with the Pistons, Wings, and Lions, a lot of people are forced to kind of have their hopes with the Detroit Tigers. And when Jason uttered those words, I kind of sat here going, oh my gosh, if you're pinning your hopes that the Tigers are going to be the team that are going to do some damage, I go, oh boy, it's one of those situations where my hope is kind of waning, and I'm just kind of, a little bit disappointed. But for this podcast, what areas of hope do you have for this 2017 team? If I were to tell you, okay, and you're trying to sell me, Doc, be a little bit optimistic. Look at things from the bright side. There are things that this team can offer you to invest in. Now, I'm a fan. I'm going to definitely check in. I'm going to watch all year long, even if they're like 80 games under 500. I'm a fan. They got me.
Really? You wouldn't watch that? Come on.
Of course. I'm a diehard.
You would only do it because of Tigers Talk, this very fine podcast. You would have to do it because of this podcast.
And I'm a fan of all sports. Listen, I think everybody knows when you got a guy doing 5-6 podcasts talking about every kind of sport, they got to know that I'm really invested in all the Detroit teams. And I would watch if they stunk. But my hope at this point in time and where I stand is I thought the window should have been shut a while back. And when 2-3 years ago, when all the debate was buy, sell, I was always on the sell train because I never believed once they hired Brad Ausmus that this team was going to be successful. And I felt like they could have been farther ahead had they made some moves. So that's just where I was at. But here I am now in 2017. I'm going to hopefully listen to you sell me on the 2017 Tigers. What would you say are some things that I should look at from the positive perspective? Because we all know if you listen to anything that I've said about the Detroit Tigers in the last 3 years, you kind of know where I stand. But if there's something positive that you can sell me on the team that I support, what would it be?
You mean that you've been negative? Come on. I couldn't even come close to saying that about you the last year and a half of doing this podcast. But you have been. You've been a negative Nilly. You have been.
But I'm right.
You have been realistically for the most part. And the thing right now why you can be negative is because of the fact they are struggling with this retooling and moving slowly and with difficulty and toiling around with it. You could really argue that. Trudging through it. You could argue that is a description, the way to describe the Tigers as they go through this retooling process. So it hasn't been an efficient one because they haven't dealt anybody of worth that has landed them quality young players in return to build this team for the future, to make it into a competitive ball club in the AL Central year in, year out, 2-3 years down the line. So Avila has come under some criticism, and rightfully so, even though I've liked most of his moves. This offseason, though, has been so lackluster because they have moved so slowly through this retooling process. And right now, he is the guy we have to blame for it, even though I know he might have had some difficulty doing all these moves because of ownership and because they wanted something to be done in the beginning of the offseason and then change their mindset all of a sudden, causing Avila to change course. But the reasons to stay optimistic are that this Major League roster they have intact right now was pretty darn good last year and almost made the playoffs despite all the injuries they suffered through. To notable names such as Jordan Zimmerman of the rotation, to Nick Castellanos, JD Martinez in their lineup. So they dealt with all of those significant injuries as they were bitten by that injury bug all year long. And still, they managed to win 86 ball games to finish in second place, to finish less than 5 games from making the playoffs as a wildcard team in the American League. So they came very darn close, and they come now with this rotation led by JV, a Bulldog. Should have won the AL Cy Young in 2016. He's your ace. And then underneath them, a lot of youngsters who could be aces. A guy that won the Rookie of the Year in 2016, and Michael Fulmer. Daniel Norris might take another step or two forward. All those guys in that rotation and a healthy Jordan Zimmerman, that's a nice 1 through 4 in that rotation. And then the lineup is still pretty solid. Now, V-Mart might be in for a decline. We might be able to say that about him at this stage in his career. But Miguel Cabrera, guess what? He's not declining yet. As long as he stays healthy for the majority of the season, you can expect him to produce at a premium all-star rate once again. So you got him coming back. JD Martinez, who they haven't dealt yet, he's coming back. Ian Kinsler, these guys who are quality, high quality hitters even when they're healthy. So I'm liking what they have to offer when you also factor in Nick Castellanos. If he stays healthy for a larger portion of the season and takes even another step forward, I think only got $3 million. What a bargain for the Tigers, getting him for that rate going into 2017. So he can be a guy that contributes productively once again for the Tigers, and especially if he stays healthy for a larger portion of the season. And I mean, I'm trying to say that you have to put some stock in him being a high-quality performer once again. JD Martinez being a high-quality performer once again. Victor Martinez being a high-quality, or Miguel Cabrera at least being a high-quality performer. Vmart being a decent performer. Kinsler at least being a decent performer. Justin Upton being a decent, if not better, performer than last year, meaning has a better first half and becomes more of a high-caliber performer then that can make the All-Star team in the American League this season, or at least perform more consistently at the plate like an all-star performer. So all those bats added up, their lineup is not too bad. Now, it's been downtrodden at the top because of losing Cameron Maybin for nothing when they dealt him to the Halos. But for the most part, the lineup still being intact, the rotation still being intact, and the rotation especially being young for the most part, outside of, well, you know who? Justin Verlander and Jordan Zimmerman. But still, all of that combined, and if they upgrade the bullpen a little bit before the offseason is officially over or before spring training officially starts, well, then this team can be that maybe 85 to 86 win ball club again that sneaks into the playoffs this time around. And if some of those guys step up their performances in the bullpen too, Bruce Rondon, if he's even better, you know, all season long, consistently. A guy like him, Justin Wilson, Alex Wilson, all those guys, if they're better consistently throughout the season, well, then your team might actually hover around above 85 wins, more like 87 or 88 wins. And you need 88, let's say, to get into the playoffs. And I think if everything goes right, it's a lot of ifs, but if everything goes right with guys taking steps forward and staying healthy more than last year, you could argue the Tigers, in their most optimistic kind of perspective on them, they could win that 88 win total. They could get to that, which means they could be in the playoffs as a wild card team in 2017, Doc.
Okay, to recap what you said, looking at step one would probably be the evolution of the starting rotation. If Verlander, Zimmerman, and Fulmer can be truly 1 through 3, they can be probably a formidable starting rotation that we can look to potentially to limit runs and to give the Tigers a chance. And with the emergence potentially of Norris or Boyd or anybody else that can fill in the 4 or 5 spot, the Tigers have an opportunity to have a formidable starting rotation that can do some things. Step one. Step two, you do have some younger talent that could emerge. If JD Martinez sticks around, if Nick Castellanos can continue to emerge, if James McCann can further his offensive production, if Jose Iglesias' batting average and offensive production improves, then you have an opportunity for the offense to continue. As well as you have Miguel Cabrera, Justin Upton, Vmart. Those are guys that you know can produce offensively. And I guess your number 2 point is, if the surrounding cast can just improve maybe 25 to 30% across the board, then maybe, just maybe, you have a different makeup of this team where they can play and compete at a different level and be in more games. And so step one, I agree with. Step two, I'm not exactly sure can happen, but I do believe if you're selling hope, then you do believe that JD, Nick Castellanos, Jose Iglesias, James McCann will take a higher role on the offensive side and produce a little bit more and not be the team that strikes out so much. I do believe that that's something that can be looked at and can be realistically sold too. I agree with you. I think those 2 points can be points of hope for the 2017 team.
And the Tigers avoided arbitration with a lot of guys, and they kept these guys really at low prices too because of doing that. And, you know, reading this article, as I said before, Nick Castellanos got $3 million for 1 year. What a deal that is, huh? To strike for the Tigers. $4.1 million for Jose Iglesias. So agreeing to those deals with Castellanos and Iglesias, and the Tigers avoided arbitration with all the remaining eligible players as well. So they reached 1 year deals with left-hander Justin Wilson for $2.7 million and right-handers Bruce Rondon for $850K and Alex Wilson for $1.175 million. So cheap deals for all those guys that could be productive performers, guys they will be relying upon for consistent productivity. Now, in Nick Castellanos and Iglesias in their lineup every day, and then in their bullpen out of left-hander Justin Wilson, and then Rondon and Alex Wilson in the late innings, maybe used in the 7th and 8th, even back-to-back pretty darn consistently. Now, Ausmus, hopefully, though, will alter that mentality about using his bullpen arms in defined spots every single game because he needs more flexibility with his arms, as the Indians proved to use. The Cubs did as well very efficiently because of their manager, Joe Madden. Indians because of their manager, Terry Francona. Hopefully, Ausmus learns something from watching the postseason, learns from those guys that use those bullpen arms in that manner too, such as Dave Roberts with the LA Dodgers too. If he learns something from those guys, takes a page out of their playbooks, I think it will help improve the performances of these bullpen arms too, or at least use the guys that are productive in more high leverage spots more often.
Vito, listening to you, I told you to try to sell me hope. Okay, and I can tell, being a psychologist and listening to podcast after podcast, you're trying your absolute hardest, despite the fact that I know and you know you don't believe any of it.
You can tell, can't you?
A little bit. Oh my gosh, I wanted you to sell me on this team, and maybe next week I'll do the exercise and sell you on why this Detroit Tigers team can be a playoff contender. You're doing a good job, and you're giving me the company line, but in terms of your ability to sell me, my money still in my pocket.
Well, you know what? Hey, they avoided arbitration on everybody. There's a positive point of view. They did do that on reaching those deals that I talked about. It's a quality thing for those guys that are on the younger side that could be productive, having them on cheap deals for 2017 at least. And now you might have to pay a lot of money to keep Nick Castellanos long term. And, you know it too, JD Martinez, he's still on the team. Remember that he's still on the team, but how long will he be on the team? And that's the negative point of view that we could use to argue the point that he's on the team still, but will he be on the team long term and past 2017 or even past the first half
Vito,
of 2017?
You know what Monday, March 13th is? WWE Raw, baby, coming to Detroit. And I'm right now shelling out money to buy tickets for Raw on Monday. And so my entertainment dollars are going to Raw. And I don't think, based upon what you're selling, they're not going to the Tigers just yet. So next week, stay tuned. I think it's going to be the 75th edition, where I will sell you on why this Tigers team could be a potential wild card playoff team.
Well, see, the problem is they have to upgrade the bullpen. They've got to big time. If they don't upgrade the bullpen, they're not going to go anywhere, Doc, and that's the truth.
Vito, I would almost guarantee the words bullpen do not come out of my mouth if I'm selling about the 2017
That's what I mean. That's the negative point of view, but that's the truth. Those are the facts on the wall.
I didn't tell you to give me the facts. I told you sell me on the 2017 Tigers. You were not able to go outside your objective, factual, realistic approach, and I agree with you. The opinion is, I think everybody has it, that the 2017 Tigers are going to be caca. But in essence, I wanted you to sell me. So right now, my entertainment dollars have yet to be pulled out of my wallet for the Tigers, just yet. And I'm trying, as always, to try to get in there for free, no doubt about it, because if you know me, I'm trying to be frugal and save some money. So if I have to pay for the Tigers at this point in time, based upon what you were selling, you got to have somebody else call.
Hey, you pay to watch a $3 million Nick Castellanos. He got a fair deal. They avoided arbitration. His projected arbitration salary, Nick Castellanos, was $2.8. They only went a little bit above that, got him at $3 million. I'm really reaching, but you can watch him if he's more healthy, if JD Martinez is more healthy. The point is, if Upton's better in the first half, all those guys being productive as well and more healthy, well, then you got a better Tigers ball club in 2017 that can win more games, can maybe win 88 games, which is what it's going to take more than likely to get one of those two AL wildcard spots.
Listen, if you're
There's the optimistic point of view to take that I'm trying to enlighten everybody with, to draw them in.
Now, as the guy trying to debate you, I wouldn't bring up player salaries to anybody in terms of Nick Castellanos, in my opinion, is not worth $800K. In my opinion.
How about last year? But he is worth that.
He got hurt. He wasn't there the whole year.
He's worth double $3 million. Think about the guys. If you actually compare him to other guys that have similar numbers, you would say that after looking at those comparable players that he is worth more than $3 million. He's worth double that at this point in Major League Baseball in the current state of the game economically.
See, I'm a general manager that I think owners would love because I don't care about fair market value. I care about how do I get Nick Castellanos at the cheapest rate.
What is cheap? That's a bargain, baby.
They should have got him
$3 million.
They should have got him at 2.8. That's a couple of $100,000 that could have been saved. They could have lined my pockets. So
sell a few more Little Caesars pizzas, okay, at Comerica Park. I don't feel bad for the Illiges.
So again, another point for you is when you bring up selling somebody trying to buy tickets, it's not to bring up their salary. You would just say Nick Castellanos is somebody that is emerging as a third baseman and is potentially going to live up to the hype that he had in the minor leagues for the Detroit Tigers. So next week, you're going to have to pay attention and see how I sell it, because next week, I guarantee you're going to be pulling out every penny in your wallet and handing it over to the DOC, guaranteed.
How about Alex Avila? Yeah, that's not convincing, huh? He's a left-handed complement to James McCann, baby, at catcher. Has some pop. So if he ever stays healthy.
So outside of the starters...
you can't be optimistic. I just told you everything. that you can think
I'm
about and
finger
talk
waving.
about to be optimistic.
I'm finger
No, but
waving.
it's true. The facts are facts, man.
I'm finger
There's not
waving.
much more to talk about.
Next week, you're going to be a season ticket holder, guaranteed, based upon my
I don't have
pitch.
the money. I got some bad teeth. Okay, so I can't afford any season tickets right now. Even though I love the Tigers, I always give them the benefit of the doubt and look at them optimistically as much as possible. And I still believe they're hovering around a wild card team, a team that can win. I think if they really meet expectations, could win 85 games, 83 to 85. That's sad a little bit, but not totally sad. It's totally true. A little bit sad, but not totally sad. Come on. If you win 83 to 85 games, you're still above 500.
See,
And you might just be a wild card team because of the parity in Major League
I'm
Baseball
asking
as a
you
whole.
to play along. I'm asking you to sell me a team that's going to win 100 games.
They're not going to. There's no way. You can't even sell that. You can't sell that to anybody right now. You can
Episode-
try next week.
Episode
Good
75,
luck.
I will sell you that this could be a 95-win team, and you're going to be a season ticket holder, guaranteed, because when I come out on the air and talk about it, I'm going to go the exact opposite. You did a good job. You gave me the factual reasons, step 1 and 2, but beyond that, I think you fell a little bit short in terms of keeping my money in my pocket. So we're going to take a timeout, regroup, refresh. I want to do a couple things in the second half of the podcast. I want to answer Steve's question that he sent to us today.
Oh, he sent us another question, huh? Steve Cementi always sending us stuff.
It was actually a very good question
Yeah.
and a legitimate concern that he had. And then I want to end the podcast kind of talking about a fan site that I see quite a bit. I want to get your reaction because there's a lot of fan sites that do a lot of great work. And I want to get your opinion on it because for me, I'm a little bit more objective and a little bit more bitter where I'm right to the point. But I have a lot of respect for a lot of these fan sites. And I just want to get your opinion on one of them coming up after the break on Tigers Talk.
And Doc and everybody else, stay with us. We'll be right back here on episode 74 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. It's Vito Chirco from Top Cat Sales in downtown Royal Oak. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or your corporation? Well, if so, then look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan quarterback John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the very highest quality and the very best service. So get your organization, your school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going online to TopCatTeamSales.com. Once again, the website for Top Cat Sales is TopCatTeamSales.com. And remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter at Team Top Cat. And back here on episode 74 of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company, I am your host, Vito Jerome Chirco, alongside the Doc. Doc is always here. He's a very reliable man, and the Podfather as well. Now, the Podfather brought up that he has a few things to discuss with me, and I have a trivia question for Doc to end this edition of the podcast, too. After I failed to sell him on the Tigers being competitive and being a winning ball club in 2017.
All I can
Sorry,
say is,
Doc.
all I can
apologize.
say is
okay?
that Detroit Tigers PR will not be calling you based upon that. You would get hung up on.
Well, see, the problem is Brad Ausmus. I can always go back to him. If he doesn't improve too, which I don't think he will, then the Tigers can't be a playoff team. That's another reason right there, Doc.
Vito!
And I thought you went down on me to get rid of my mic, to cut me off there. Because you've done that before, but you didn't do it this
I almost
time,
should have.
I thought you were going to do it.
If the objective is to sell me on the Detroit Tigers,
I'm going to try to tell you the most real facts. I'm going to give you all the factual stuff and deliver it to you guys. I don't care if it makes you think the Tigers are bad or good. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that here. We're not just you talked about some fan blogs. We want to get into that too. You have one that you wanted to note with us today. Well, we're not just a fan podcast. We express fandom. We are fans of the Tigers, but we want to be realistic too, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe then some more than some blogs are out there we do read.
Listen, I understand there's a lot of them out there, and they do a good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, to quickly wrap up the last part, if I'm selling anybody on anything with the Tigers, I'm not using the words Brad Ausmus.
No, you can't.
You
You're
won't
right.
hear that word coming out of my mouth.
Next week, you should not be using his name
Okay.
at all.
So the site that I want to talk about is a site that I read and I check into a lot of things. I really don't click off anything. If you put out good content and you do a good job, I want to talk about the site Bless You Boys.
Yep.
They're on Twitter. They got a good following. I just want to get your opinion, your review of that site. I read a lot of their articles, but it's kind of fan-driven. It is from more of a positive perspective. They are analytical. They do critique, but from a more positive angle in terms of a lot of their reporting and things like that. But what do you think about Bless You Boys? I feel like they write very well. They put out a lot of good content. I do believe they have a lot of access and do a lot of different things. But, on their Twitter page, they do talk about being fan-driven and things like that. So it kind of leads you to believe that they are trying to hype up the Tigers in any situation that you can. And then their critiques, maybe, you can tell me what they are, because in-depthly, like I said, I only peek into, articles here and there. It's been a little bit of time since I've read a Bless You Boys article.
Well, they're fan-centric. They're PR Tiger-centric. They're going to always spin it positively. No matter what the move may be, how bad it may be on paper, when you look at it, they're going to spin it as positive as possible. I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to do so. And, by the way, Bless You Boys has never given me a job when I try to write for them as a freelancer. They never have provided me with the opportunity. So I should just critique the hell out of them, right? It just negatively hit them left and right.
So you sent a resume or you sent a piece?
I sent a piece, and I told them who I was. I think it was more of me telling them who I was. And I gave a bio about what I've done, my experiences. I applied during college, I think right out of college, just to see if I could write for them a little bit, because I've read their site extensively throughout the years as a Tigers fan. And I like their work. I generally do. But I can see where there might be some criticism of the blog, of the site, because of the fact that they do always, as I said before, spin the news positively in the direction of the Tigers. But I think they're going for that. They want to get access, as much access to the Tigers as possible. Not that they've been given a lot from the Tigers yet, but I think their aim is to get that access. And even you and I, we struggle with that because we want to critique the Tigers and tell the truth about what we think about the Tigers. But then at times, if we ever want to get true access to the team, right, to be in the clubhouse after a game or before a game, well, what do we got to do? We kind of have to appeal, right, to the Tigers too, appease their mindsets and talk positively about the Tigers' moves and their players. And we totally critique their players, from the 25th player on the roster to the first guy on the roster all year long. Well, we're not looking good. We're not viewed in the most positive light then as Tigers pundits. So we have to watch our end and kind of just think about that. And I think that site thinks about that all the time. And that's why you could, negatively talk about that site, Bless You Boys, at times too. So that's what I have on my mind about Bless You Boys.
Okay, so
and about where we stand, I guess, as well. Too,
okay, so what I'm hearing is that I've accepted your work. You work with me, but you weren't good enough for Bless You Boys.
Not good enough for that. BYB, Bless You Boys, SB Nation fan blog.
Did you ever?
It's a good SB Nation blog. I like it. That's why I applied for it.
Yeah. Did you get any interview? Did no contact?
Interviews. I think they replied to me one time. I think I talked to Ian Castleberry, a guy that I've had on my show when I was in college. It was Chirco and Company. This is Tiger Stock with Chirco and Company. He's a Tigers and baseball pundit who writes for Awful Announcing now. So a credible guy who I try to get in to Bless You Boys through, and he tried to help me out. So I've had some, I guess, a connection, to the inside, but it never worked out to be anything for me.
So Bless You Boys, what grade would you give them? B plus, A minus?
B plus at least, yeah.
Okay,
I think it's a fan blog. As a fan site, you could give them a straight A, right? As a fan site. Now, as a site that objectively views things, what could we grade them? A harsher grade then, right? We would have to say that much. I would say if you grade them based on being objective all the time, well, they're not. So you would have to give them what?
Okay, so let's look at it like
a
this.
low B or a C grade? Right?
Obviously, Fox Sports Detroit is a partner with the Detroit Tigers. So they're going to spin things
and they'll
positively.
kiss up to the Tigers, too. And then John Keating, Craig Monroe, Simo's, he's a cheerleader for the Tigers. Rod Allen's a cheerleader for the Tigers. We know that much about them.
So is Bless You Boys on the scale of Fox Sports Detroit or a little bit less than that?
Less than that, because they're more critical. They're still more critical than Fox Sports Detroit, which is never critical. Now, if you get that kind of critical analyst in the broadcast booth alongside Mario and Pemba, or if Pemba tries to be that, then you start even giving them more respect. And they've earned respect. They're good broadcasters. Even Rod Allen. He's just a character, He likes to bring the humor, and so does Simo. So they can be clowns at times.
Did I tell you I got blocked by Rod Allen on
you
Twitter?
Said that because you were too critical at one point, huh? And
no,
you mentioned, or somebody mentioned him in a tweet that you responded to, right?
No, not responded to. So here's the thing. On our Twitter page, we get like 500 to 600 tweets a day. And what happens is people respond to my stuff, tag us and stuff and all that. And what I do is I just go through, read them all, laugh a little bit, cringe a little bit at some of the nasty stuff, and then I just like everything. So someone had said something about Rod Allen. I was kind of going through it, and I hit like, and all of a sudden, the next day, I see that Rod Allen blocked me. So I could see why people do that. You just kind of assume that I was supporting him, but I don't support, real negativity. I just was like, just liking a comment, just kind of as a way to acknowledge that I read it. Because, for me, when someone reads something, I go, oh, so that's my way of acknowledging that, hey, I saw your tweet, and I like it. So in essence, it's just one of those things where I got kind of caught up in what was said. And I didn't really maybe think about the ramifications that someone would do that. I think he's the only one at this point in time, because we get tagged in a lot of stuff that gets sent to other people. And I see that, and I understand that. I understand what people are doing, but I don't really pay much attention to it. So I just like, and then go through it and stuff like that. But I got caught in the crossfires, and so I don't think he's really mad at me. He's just mad at the other guy, but I just got caught in the crosshairs. But it doesn't make a difference.
You're a constant liker. You like to like tweets. You do that.
Exactly.
Or like to favorite tweets.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? I was going to say, too, I can't believe you haven't pissed off anybody else yet, besides for me and Rod Allen.
Yeah,
well, maybe somebody else that used to work for the DSP network. We're not going to name names, but you're saying broadcasters in the real professional world, such as Rod Allen. Yeah. Only him, huh?
Well, because
that you've noticed, at least.
Because my critiques are more sarcastic and more realistic. I don't attack personally. I don't.
No, you don't. I know we don't do that. Neither of us do that.
Yeah, we just kind of use sarcasm, try to be humorous, try to get our opinions out in an entertaining way as possible. So, and people get that, and that people have been here. We've gotten Dan Miller, we've gotten people that are related to the Tigers. I spoke in
Pemba, right? At
Mario
one point.
Pemba.
Yeah.
So we just just try to be real, and that's kind of the attitude that we take is, if it's bad, it's bad. We call it spade a spade. And I think what people come to respect about DSP is we don't put rules on fans. I think that we try to state our opinions, and we try to do the best that we can to we try to do our best to defend our stances and things like that. And all we want to do is just have the debate. I think a lot of people are closed-minded even to bring up the possibility that Brad Ausmus is not the guy. And I can put it on record, and it's archived.
We can talk about it numerous times, and we have.
We said that. We don't want Brad Ausmus from day one. So it's archived, and that's what we said. And it's kind of come to fruition, and we'll see what this season will bring. So, okay, bless you boys, B+. Maybe they will
respond to this.
Maybe you... Maybe you can do a good enough job in 2017 to even be considered by bless you boys.
To finally meet their standards, huh? It's taken this long, but maybe 2017 is the year. It might be a good year, actually, unlike 2016 for a lot of people. But Alex Avila, I wanted to bring up something about him.
But quickly before that...
And I know you have something else, too, so you hit me. Hit me with that first.
Yep. Steve Chimenti, a longtime supporter of DSP on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, he wants to know why Al Avila is platooning the center fielders right now, because it didn't really work in 2016, and going with the platoon in 2017 is likely not going to work in his opinion. So what's up with that?
Well, it was Maben and Ghost as the platoon. Ghost became a minor leaguer. Maben became he became the full-time starting center fielder. So it wasn't a true platoon. And we don't know his true intentions about that center field position yet come opening day. It might be where he gets a clear-cut starting center fielder. That could be Jacoby Jones, or it might be Austin Jackson, a veteran type like that you can get on the cheap through the free agent market. And I think the best case scenario is that you add Austin Jackson to compete with Jacoby Jones for that center field starting job for opening day. And then Ajax can be that veteran option you can fall back upon. If Jacoby Jones struggles out of the gate, you have Austin Jackson there as insurance policy to take the spot then from Jacoby Jones. But I don't even know if it's going to be a true platoon. I don't even know if we can describe the true intentions right now of Al Avila for that starting center field position. So right now, we can't describe center field as going to be a true platoon at this point. So I know what Steve's getting at because we've talked about it, and he probably got the idea from us because we had talked about how Tyler Collins could be used there, as well as Jacoby Jones, as well as Austin Jackson, perhaps, if they add him via free agency. But right now, it might come down to Jacoby Jones getting that position and for himself having that come opening day. And then maybe you have that veteran to back him up, such as Austin Jackson, or even if you just go internally, having Tyler Collins as a backup center fielder.
Okay, yeah, because it is a point of contention that we really want to see locked. We really want to see positions solidified and right now. And basically, it's hard for a lot of people to conceptualize that right now the Detroit Tigers are in flux. That really, they're looking to upgrade every position. And right now, before spring training, you realize that, they kind of have an idea of who they want slotted. But in spring training, sometimes, hey, maybe even Jacoby Jones goes out there and goes like 0 for 16 in spring training. You can't give him the starting job. So you have to kind of, you have to, at this point in time, kind of conceptually think about who's going to start at what position, but we do have to evaluate what goes on in spring training. And that's something that is important, is to talk about what goes on in spring training. And later editions of the podcast, we'll go down and kind of talk about what happens in spring training, what is the purpose of spring training, is it maybe too long, and we'll talk more about that, because I do believe this spring training is probably going to be really important for the Detroit Tigers to avoid injury, to really see what's going to happen in center field and to see how guys that were injured last year are going to perform this spring training. So it does have a purpose. It might be a little bit too long, but I'll be interested in future editions of the podcast to talk about spring training, what your purpose is, and really is it something that is really needed to play like 20 to 30 games in the month of March.
Spring training will have a lot of roster battles for the Tigers that will determine a lot of roster battles, and maybe more than it has in recent memory, such as last year. And now this upcoming spring, we have the World Baseball Classic, too, to be entertained by. And Jim Leyland will be the skipper of Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. So that will be cool to watch, at least for me. You might not care at all, and a few other guys might not care at all, but hey, Vito Chirco will. And I just love that soundbite, man. That is just classic right there. And some people have that mentality a little bit too much in a lot of aspects of life. And thank you, Doc, for all that. Thank you very much, by the way, for all that. The Tigers in spring training, it will be different than it has been, to say the least, and it will determine more, with that being said, as well for the roster going into opening day. So we have that. We know that much about the Tigers. They are still in flux. You are right, because in center field especially, what are they going to do? Who's going to start there? And what's the bullpen going to look like as well? We still don't know, and the Tigers have some questions to answer, with that being said as well, Doc. And I have a trivia question for you to end the discussion on this week's podcast regarding Alex Avila, a guy, as we said, the Tigers picked up to be a left-handed complement to James Mechanic catcher in 2017.
Why?
And he maybe can provide some nice productivity as a backup for the Tigers, but he is getting some acclaim or some pub.
The people of this country are furious
About the pickup of Alex Avila, right? Hey, you could argue that. Maybe a little bit of nepotism, but I liked the pickup. And the trivia question, anyways, with all that being said, is about, it relates to this. Let me just state this first. Alex Avila will be inducted into the West Michigan Whitecaps Hall of Fame. So he has that coming for him. Now, my question.
Why?
How many more sound bites do you have? I'm about to head out of this office. No, but really the question is why. Once you hear these numbers, but I wanted to get you to answer what you think his numbers were in West Michigan first before I reveal the stats that he had in West Michigan. So what do you think he put up for a stat line? And that means, what did he hit for average? Okay. How many home runs and how many runs driven in did he produce at West Michigan?
West Michigan, so we're talking about his minor league career?
Minor league stint with the West Michigan Whitecaps.
Okay, how long was his stint there?
It wasn't long, because he made his major league debut a year later.
So he's in the Hall of Fame. So, okay, I'm going to say he batted .315 with 80 home runs.
No. It was only one season he had. He went to the majors a year later after
So
being
one
with
season.
the Whitecaps.
Okay, one season. So just one season. I would say then he batted .290 with 11 home runs and 150 RBIs.
You wish. We all wish.
Yeah.
He wasn't that good. Was
No.
never that productive.
Okay.
And look at these numbers, how paltry they are compared to what you just said. He hit .305, good average, but
305.
only a homer. Only one home run
One.
and 22 ribbies. And he's in the West Michigan Whitecaps Hall of Fame. I don't get how it's possible, but he is being inducted into the West Michigan Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you see how factually, and it's sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around it. You think that he was there maybe 2 years, and
Maybe got in because of that, with great numbers offensively, like home runs and the RBIs being north of 100, not even close to 100.
okay, so I can relate to this on some level. Is this a ceremonious type thing where they got a name, they got a guy that did
It's
something?
the name. It's the name factor, because he's played in the majors now and with the Tigers for more than a few years. It's based on that. You're right.
Based upon his numbers in the minors, you probably wouldn't qualify for that Hall of
no
Fame.
way. How could you? God, can you get in with one home run and 22 RBIs? A lot of guys would be Hall of Famers now, man.
Exactly.
Brendan Ryan, Andrew Roman, all these scrubs as utility guys would be Hall of Famers all of a sudden. So we know it's based on the merit that he has been a major leaguer. Only based on that. And you know what? I wish it was that easy to make the Hall of Fame, because you and I, after 74 episodes of this, would be in the Hall of Fame for podcasters, if there was such a thing. And maybe in Michigan, there will be one day. Maybe we can start it. Huh? We can start that chapter of a Hall of Fame for podcasters, as I said.
You know what you can do? You can nominate me for the DBSA Broadcaster of the Year.
Because you are,
Submit it.
obviously, with what you've done, all these podcasts, 5 different shows that you do now, every single week.
Let's nominate each
You
other.
deserve it.
I'll nominate you, and you nominate me. We'll see what happens.
Now, you'll go in as a podfather. Do you want your real name, or just to be known as a podfather when you're inducted? And like in your, the person that gives the induction speech for you or to introduce you, do you want them referring to you as a podfather during that speech?
See, what it is, it's more of an honor to Adam Carolla because he's the true podfather.
He is, isn't he? You
Yeah.
can't even claim that. I'm sorry.
All
For
I
the
can do-
like we said, for the DSP network, you do, and rightfully so.
got to come up with a creative name to say that I took his ideas and took it to our level here in the world of Detroit sports. But hey, you got to be able to execute it. So I was able to take what Adam Carolla did and apply it to what we're doing here. But you could call me the Podfather, no doubt about it.
You would like that. You would like to have your ego stroked. But I do too. I can't deny it. And we both do. That's why we're the co-hosts of this fine podcast, Tigers Talk. And it's why we're the co-hosts of Two Bad Hombres, a new podcast. Check out every single Saturday. And check out this episode of the pod of Tigers Talk. It drops this Wednesday. Check it out. Tune in and tune in next week as well to episode 75. It's a big monumental one, you could argue. We're almost there, 3/4 of the way to 100 episodes for Tigers Talk. Pretty impressive. And it's all been because of you, Doc, the Podfather.
No doubt.
Thank you much, man.
No doubt about it, of course. And then the objective for episode 75 will be for me to try to get you to buy season tickets for the Tigers, selling you on the hope that this Tigers team can do some things, and I'll do a much better job. You did an okay job.
Hopefully a much better job, because I know I wasn't good with it, because I can't sell the team on, or anybody on the team being a team that can win anywhere close to 100 games. Hey, that's just what it is right now with the Tigers and what they look like as a ball club. And Doc, with that, best of luck to you with preparing for that to happen next week on episode 75 of Tigers Talk. Talk to you guys at that, and have a great week until then, too. Goodbye.